Welcome to the Quantum Empath. I'm your host, Kelly Michelle, intuitive guide, alchemist, and reality hacker. This is a space where esoteric knowledge, ancient wisdom, personal development, and quantum physics meet to help you shift your frequency, break old patterns, and step into the life your soul came here to live. Let's expand your awareness, upgrade your energy, and create your dream reality, one episode at a time. Let's begin. Welcome to the Quantum Empath. My name is Kelly Michelle, and today my guest is Keanna Lambert, and she is the host of the podcast Calm Your Crazy. She is a conscious creator. She is a community leader, a near-death experiencer and survivor who I became fascinated with her work when I stumbled upon her on Instagram. And I am completely fascinated by the way she is able to look at the world with her fresh eyes. She's trying to help humanity see the world through her eyes, using human language. And Keanna, thank you for coming on the show and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How would you say you were prior to your near-death experience? Kind of take us back, and then what led up to your experience and where you're at now. Let's just kind of tell your story.
Well, I was born into a cult, and it was the Children of God. It's a very big cult. They still call themselves like Family Christian United, I think, to this day. But my mother joined when she was a teenager, and my father did as well. And in this cult, it was a sex cult. And I was born in South America, and my mother had to do a lot of sex work for this cult because that's what they taught, was that you showed love of Christ through your body. And then you asked for donations. So she had a lot of relationships with a lot of people, and they also didn't believe in contraception. So of my 8 siblings, only 3 of us are like from their shared relationship. And it was very tumultuous and a violent kind of home that we were all in. People were always fighting. We lived in a compound, and when we were kicked out, my parents were demoted after 6 years of being in Ecuador. And during that time, I was trafficked sexually as a child for the elites in South America. And so those memories I have really locked away, and those came out after my near-death experience. There was always something there, but I unlocked those then. After we got kicked out of the cult, which was 4 years later, they got demoted, and then we moved to Chile, and we were there for 4 years, and they started a whole other compound. But after we were demoted, we moved back to Texas. And what I experienced in the cult was not bad. Like, my memories of it were all about love, were all about what I saw. I was very aware, because when you are abused as a child frequently, you dissociate and you start to see things from a separate point of awareness. So I was always very much awake from the time I was young. I could see things very clearly. And then when we moved back to the United States, I continued in that point of awareness. And you take the cult with you. It's a mentality that they had, right? And so it continued throughout my childhood, the violence, the generational trauma. My mom is a product of generational trauma. My father's a product of generational trauma. And so they just kind of recycled that pattern over and over again. And one of the benefits of being one of many children and not having a whole lot of attention is that you kind of grow your own sense of awareness by watching, by observing. And because the environment is so dangerous, you develop this ability to be able to anticipate all the problems. Your brain gets really good at anticipating everything that's going to happen and memorizing every single situation. And I have a really, really good memory because as a child in Ecuador, before the age of 2, reading and writing was very paramount to this cult. So we got taught the King James Version of the Bible very early, and we had to memorize verses verbatim, or else we would get spanked. So my brain created this sense of safety around always remembering everything. And that leads up until today. Like if I don't remember something, my brain senses danger. So I had all this awareness because of everything that I experienced, and I started to see immediately. And I was very highly sensitive. You become very highly sensitive whenever you go through trauma because you have to anticipate danger. So I was very emotionally aware of energy, even though that I wasn't aware of it. And I started really seeing patterns of why my parents were the way that they were. They would tell me stories, and I would connect the patterns of why they were who they were. And I started to teach myself what I needed to learn because we were homeschooled. So I didn't have anybody that actually taught me anything. I just taught myself everything. I relied on myself. So I knew very early that I wanted to experience a lot of things. I wanted to do a lot of artistic things, but I didn't know how that was going to happen or what I was going to do, right? So I went into emergency medical services because that's what came up. I met somebody and they were a paramedic. And so I met the boss of 911 for emergency services, and she invited me to come work there. So I know I'm jumping around quite a bit,
It's
but
okay.
basically I'm just trying to go through my story and
Sure.
be succinct, but there's a lot of little nuances that are coming out as well. But anyway, I basically was living from a point of awareness that was separate from my body. I was in
Well,
the
and
observer state.
that I've always said that the people that go into EMS and those types of services have the ability to separate themselves from the situation at the time. And that was probably because you were able to disassociate from stuff in your childhood. You were like, okay, I can show up at this and help in this, and then just totally do what you need to do
That's exactly
in
how
that
it was.
moment. And
Yeah.
that's,
You feel
yeah.
fear in your body. Your emotions
Mm-hmm.
come from your body. So when you dissociate from your body, you can do a lot of things in your mind. And so I could multitask really well because of this. But I always wanted to help people. I wanted to be really expressive, but I also wanted to help people. And whenever I wanted to be expressive and creative, my mother would always say, no, you can't do that. You're going to be a starving artist. You can't do that. So the only other thing that I thought of that I could do was to help people. You know, I read the Bible when I was younger. That was like my only source of companionship. And so every time somebody would ask, what do you want to do with your life? It was, oh, I want to save the world, because the only reference I had was the Bible. So I still carried that reference with me even into my adulthood. And I went into saving people. But I was always getting like the resonance feeling, like you're only saving somebody because you want to save yourself. When you understand resonance and energy, especially now for me, things like that stick out. They come out really loud. And I remember a friend of mine saying, you just want to help other people because you want to save yourself. And it hit something. And I, I always thought I was being really selfless, but that hit something in me. And I kind of like saved it for later because I didn't know what it meant at the time. But there were exercises that I would do, like you can clear your mind and you can write with a pen and just kind of see what comes out. And I saw this on television. I thought, well, I'm going to try it, And I kept writing, help me, help me, help me. And I had no idea. And I had been assaulted sexually from 12 to 14 by a family member at this point as well. And the way that it was handled by my family was they turned it on me. My father called me a whore. He beat me, and they made me try to apologize to him, which I refused to do. I'd rather die, but I never did. But there were all these things that I suppressed. I kept suppressing and suppressing so that I could function, dissociating so that I could function. And then I went into EMS and all that trauma that you hear, because you take it with you. My first 911 call was a 10-year-old child that impaled himself on a fence.
Oh,
And his parents were screaming while he died, and they were telling them they loved him. And I've taken call after call after call after call. So I was getting all this trauma added on to the trauma that I've had from when I was little, right? I think I'm getting now where I'm going. I'm like, oh, there's a direction here. We hit the train. Okay, good. Anyway, so I worked in EMS and did 911 for about 11 years. And I dispatched police and EMS. I
wow.
finally quit when I stopped with police because I was experiencing a lot of PTSD symptoms, and I got diagnosed with PTSD because you have to listen to them when they're running on foot, and you have to type. You have to clear your mind, and you have to type everything they're saying because it goes into a system that goes to everybody's unit, and they all have to be able to read while they're driving or listen while they're driving. So it was too much. And the last call that I got was there was a man in the parking lot of a Walmart with a rifle. And all my friends were working that night because you become friends with the officers, and they surrounded him in the parking lot with a standoff. And it was just like hours of gruesome waiting, and then one of them played a joke. They thought it would be funny to like make it seem like something happened. And then I was done because I was like, I can't do this anymore. It was too much stress for my nervous system. So I had that trauma. And at the same time, I'm still raising kids. I had a partner and we got divorced. We were together for 8 years. And then I met my second partner and we were together for over 20. So I'm still working. I'm still taking care and raising kids. At the same time, I'm experiencing all this drama and this trauma. And I attracted partners with that level of trauma as well, right? So we had the conflict. So we would work opposite so that we could take care of our kids, and we never saw each other. So it was like being a married single mom. And I was going to school full time as well as working full time. So there was a lot that I was dealing with. And I had always experienced getting what I want in this time, right? I'm still going through all this drama and trauma, but anytime I wanted something, it would happen. All I had to do was look for it. And I would notice that I would get everything I wanted when I wanted. So there was a point where I said, I'm done with all this drama and trauma, with my relationships, with work, with friends, with everything. And no matter what happens, I'm going to move on with my life. I'm going to have happiness. I'm going to have my career. And I've set my sights on that. And I was living in Texas in Keller at the time. And I was flight following because in 911, we also did flight following for fixed wing EMS services and rotor helicopter. So I was flight following for this company and their EMS services for their helicopter and fixed wing. And I decided I wanted to move to Florida. I saw this movie when I was younger, and she lived in Pensacola, and the beaches were gorgeous. So I was like, I'm moving to Florida. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to get it done. And I just started being really positive. And I'd been at this company for 3 months. And a job opening came open. I didn't even know it was with the same company. There was actually a sister company with their umbrella. So when I applied for it, I had no idea. Well, I'd been with the original company for 3 months, and I got this job for 3 months. And it was me, my boss, and the president of this company. And I went from a new job dispatching and flight following to this job, being over 3 states and doing business development marketing for EMS services, because I changed my energy. And I knew that there was something. to this because I kept seeing it reflected back to me, right? Who gets a job as a business development director right underneath somebody and then the president after 3 months of a measly flight following job? Not to be against flight followers, but I'm saying that the difference
Mm-hmm.
in where I went is huge, right?
Yeah.
And then making 6 figures a year,
Wow.
going from 35 to 6 figures, right?
Yeah.
It's a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that changing my energy is what did it. I showed up, I changed who I was. In those 3 months, I decided I changed who I was. Like I changed my makeup, my hair, my dress, all of it. And I showed up for who I wanted to be. And I got that job in 3 months. And I knew it was the energy, but it wasn't sustainable. When you do not rewire, you do not reprogram, it's not sustainable. So the way that I felt about myself, like I was coming up against things and triggers that kept pulling me back. And because I didn't know how to rewire or anything about the nervous system, I would implode and spiral again. I could only sustain this high energy for so long. So I was working in this new role 90 hours a week. I was making a lot of money, but I was gone all the time. And I wasn't with my family and my kids, and they were suffering unbeknownst to me because, of course, I wasn't there, right? I was traveling so much, which was part of one of the things that I wanted to experience was a lot of travel and change. And I started to experience that. But then Hurricane Michael hit. And I was in the Panhandle of Florida because my job was in Pensacola, just like I ordered, right? From the universe or from me. And Hurricane Michael hit. And it hit Panama City. And Panama City was one of my bases. And I'd grown really close to the people there. And I did business development for the base. So I had to go through the town. I was on like the city council board with the hospitals. They were all my friends, all people I had relationships with. And when it was almost category 5 hurricane. And
wow.
Yeah. They were calling me in the middle of the night, screaming for help. And I could do nothing. It was so bad that the lines got disconnected. Like usually landlines will not disconnect in hurricanes, but this was so strong that the landlines were disconnected.
Yeah.
So there was no internet, there was no power, there was no nothing. And I went the next day. I got a rental, I got food, I got supplies, and went in. And as long as you had your EMS badge, you were allowed in.
Mm-hmm.
And there were bandits on the road. There were people shooting each other in the streets. It was horrific. It was like a war zone. And every single one of the people that I worked with lost their homes. They had no shoes. Like some of them were working without shoes. I mean, this is a long story in itself, but
sure.
It was like a war zone. And I went through all that trauma.
What year was that?
Hurricane Michael was in 17 or 18?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the moral or the pattern of the story was the continued trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots.
Right? And not taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I could go 90 to nothing. I mean, I was taking 18 hours of college, raising 3 kids. Not well, when you're spreading your energy that far, it's not well. You're not doing anything real well, but I was doing it. And I had just finished we'd just gone through the whole hurricane thing. And then AMR took over my company. And AMR, they are not a very good company. But anyway, they put somebody over me who started to sexually harass me. And so I left the company. And I was like, why does this stuff keep happening? Why does this stuff keep happening to me? And I started my own marketing. I didn't want to work for anybody anymore. So I started to do like my own marketing and online marketing. At this point, I'd done a lot of training and taken a lot of like online marketing stuff. And so I knew how to like help women create their programs and their things online. And I started doing that sort of thing. But I wasn't happy. I couldn't feel anything. And it seemed like no matter what I did, no matter what win I got, it wasn't sustainable. I couldn't keep it, you know?
Mm.
So I had enough. I had enough, and I said, I had a surgery coming up, because one thing about people with a lot of trauma is they have a lot of reproductive issues hormonally and stuff. So I would have really painful periods, heavy periods. And one of the treatments was to do an ablation where they burn the cervix off. And it's supposed to help with the pain and all that you experience. So I knew the surgery was coming up. It's a day surgery. You know, I've been in the medical field for, I had to do, like, I could go on and on. I know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But day surgeries, it's a conscious sedation, which means that you don't get fully intubated. The medication they give you, you're breathing on your own. They're only giving you enough to sedate you so that you don't feel anything. And I knew that too. I was
Mm-hmm.
totally fine with it. But about a couple weeks before, I told myself, if I don't find out how all this works, and if I don't find out what I'm doing wrong, and if I can't fix it, I'm not waking up in surgery. And I just kept telling myself that. And the day came for surgery, and I was so at peace. I was just so peaceful. I felt so good about it. And the anesthesiologist came in, and he said, you know, I was looking at your chart, and given your history, he said, I feel more comfortable doing a full intubation. And in my mind, I was like, bring it on, like Donkey Kong. Because I knew that if a conscious sedation is very easy, you know, it's not really that invasive. Your chances of dying are very minimal. But he came up and he just upped the stakes. You know, he said, I'm going to go ahead and intubate you fully, which means they're going to knock you out. They have to put the tube in your chest to breathe for you. So I was like, okay. And I remember them wheeling me off, and they give you the medication and they tell you to count backwards, right? And I count backwards, and I'm paralyzed, but I can still feel them trying to intubate me. And this is not something I shared in my podcast, because that was like the first time I've ever done anything, and I was so nervous, but I could feel them rolling me over. I could feel them trying to get me intubated, but they were pushing it into my stomach. I could feel my abdomen fill with air. I could feel my heart rate dropping, and I'm like sitting there while they're rolling me over, and I can hear them freaking out all around me. And then my heart stops, and it's like everything dissolves into nothing. And I'm sitting there in this void. And I feel nothing. Like, I don't feel scared. I don't feel anything. I'm just in this void, and I have no body. All I see is darkness, and it's like so dark, it's pitch black, and I know immediately that I am this darkness. And all of a sudden, it's like a firecracker, but if you can imagine, a firecracker doesn't even come close. It's like, it was like a flower of light, of sparkling light of all the colors, and it explodes out of this hole. And all of a sudden, the light goes in all different directions, and it starts to spin and spin, like little lights are spinning all over the place, and they're creating planets, and they're creating suns, and they're creating galaxies, and then they're colliding together, and they're creating more black holes, and it just keeps going and going and going. And all of a sudden, everything starts to get sucked back in to a black hole again. And then poof, it does it again, but it's a different configuration this time. And it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. And I'm like watching all of these things. And all of a sudden, I start to understand that I am in myself. I'm in this creation from my experience and my evolution, and that I'm creating all of these things, and that I'm experiencing different points of myself, my consciousness, from these different things that are happening. So the different way that the galaxies are forming and the life that forms in the galaxies. Like at one point I could zoom in and be in like this planet and watch in fast times, like it's being fast forwarded, where the life just evolves, evolves, evolves. And it just kept going and going until I realized that every single evolution was me. And it goes all the way into like all the aliens, everything that's ever been imagined or can be imagined, all takes place and it all happens. And it's all energy, just keeps going and going. Like there's no end to it. And it goes for infinity. And I realized that this was all me. And then that's when I felt the connection that they talk about, the immediate love, because I knew that all of this was me experiencing myself and going through this experience, and that it was all my energy and my frequency. Everything was energy and light. And then it's like I got pulled back in, and there was like another black hole, and it was just nothingness again. And it's then I could all of a sudden I felt like I was just kind of like fading into my body, like it was coming back online, and I could feel it like load up, like my energy load into my body. And I opened my eyes and I was in recovery.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the way you describe it, it sounds like it was yesterday. Is it just that? I mean, the way that I hear a lot of people talk about it is it's so vivid.
It's so vivid. It's so vivid. And the weirdest part wasn't even all that. It was that when I came back, I knew immediately everything. I felt connection, like I could feel gravity. I could feel the plants. I could feel everything. It was like it took me and put me in my body because I'd been dissociated my entire life.
Mm.
That all of a sudden there was no blocks left anymore. I was shunted back into my body, and now I was feeling for the first time in my life. And everything was new and connected. And I had no fear. I just felt everything. I started getting a lot of fear whenever it was very apparent. I would look at something and I knew exactly how it worked. I could look at somebody and I knew exactly who they were, their entire story. And it was just coming into my brain. There was no barrier. So all this information would flood in, flood in, flood in, flood in. And that's when I started like, okay, something's going on in my brain. Because, I'm still a medical professional. You can come back to your human, right? And so I started saying, okay, there's a lot happening here. And I could feel it in my body. Every time I looked at something, I knew it was like I knew the name of the plant. I knew how it worked. I could tell you how photosynthesis happens in the plant. And I'm just looking at it and I feel like the energy coming into my body as it's like a data download. I knew immediately that everything was just data coming in through me. And I had to work really hard to like kind of put parameters on that, or else I would constantly. This is why people go into psychosis, is what I feel like, is because they're getting too much energy and
Mm.
they don't know how to hold it.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow. That's, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that every time you tell that story, it's, you know,
It makes me miss it. Like I want to go
yeah.
back there again.
Okay.
The feeling is like a hyperbaric chamber. It's you with you. There's no
Yeah.
other sensory input.
I wish I could get you in my egg, but we did actually
Oh,
put you in
yes,
my
yes. I'd
egg
love to know all
remotely.
that.
Um, just because, I thought it would be fun for you to be able to experience what I'm doing with my quantum tech. But is there any more? I don't want to cut you off before we go into talking about the egg, because I feel like what you've done is you had that experience and then you decided at some point this needs to be shared
Oh, yes, that's where we
because
were headed. Yeah.
yeah, so you started your podcast, and maybe there's more to the story. So I want to let you finish your story before we change gears.
I so I had my near death experience. And then what I don't share with a lot of people is that I confronted my family
Mm.
about everything that I was remembering. because my therapist, I'm a good little medical girl, 3 degrees, the last one's in medical. I'm going to follow the buck. So I go to therapy, and the therapist says, well, talk to your family. They might have a different perspective. Well, they're all traumatized because they all had the same variation of experience that I had. None of them could talk about it, and they all completely blocked it.
Oh, wow.
So I experienced that at the same time as I experienced my near-death experience. And it was like I was watching myself create this. So there was this human side of me that was experiencing it. And then I saw that my quantum side, my consciousness, was creating this so that I could have what I needed, the isolation and the time to recover and to learn everything that happened to me. So I'm holding this duality, not understanding what is happening at all. I'm like, am I causing this? Well, no, I'm not causing this. I'm holding these two perspectives and not knowing what's happening. So I'm going through this whole death and this trauma of losing everybody, because your brain goes through this loss, right? And this grief. And then I also started reliving every stage of my childhood by getting wounds triggered. And then the memory was coming up with it so that I could understand. And what did I say? If I couldn't understand what happened to me, why it happened, and if I couldn't fix it, I wasn't coming back. So guess what happened? I got the blueprint plans, and then I came back and I started to relive everything. So I went to go work for a nonprofit organization because my therapist said, do things that like for others so you don't think of yourself. Wrong. Anyway, it's still good, but it doesn't help. Okay. It doesn't help because everybody goes and does it. And then you're working with a bunch of traumatized people that are all trying to forget their trauma by helping other people and not helping themselves. Right.
Yeah.
So, but it was purposeful, and my brain was so different. I had to rehab it. And they were a hot mess that needed organization and needed a program built, and I built it for them. And so I had to do all these things. And in the meantime, I was also studying neuroscience. I wanted to know what was happening to my brain. I honestly was so skeptical that I even had a near-death experience. I didn't tell anybody for years. I just researched everything I could find on it. And then I researched everything I could find on my body. I was trying different things. I was learning different modalities, yoga, every single thing that you can think of, I went through in 5 years. And then I figured out what worked for me and what didn't. And really, it came down to knowing you're the quantum observer and trusting and believing yourself and really owning your own agency and power. And when I got there, I got off all my medications, and that's when I lost the weight, was when I believed in myself enough. And I knew, okay, I'm going to do this. And I strapped on my backpack and strapped in and got off all my medications. And the weight just came off. The more you regulate, the weight just comes off, the disease stops, all of it. And when this happened, and I had proof positive in myself, because I'm not going to go sell anything if I don't believe it, right?
Right.
As soon as I had proof positive in me, I started practicing because I knew I had to share it. So I started practicing every which way. So you can see my old social media videos. They're terrified and cringy, but I did it anyway, over and over and over again. And I knew it was my nervous system. And I knew that if people could understand how it works and could apply it, that would make the biggest difference in their life. And if they had support and other people that could reflect this and mirror this back to them, then it would be sustainable. Because the reason I wasn't sustainable was because I didn't have that perception of myself, but I also didn't have support or anybody to mirror my experience back to me. And that's one of the ways that humans learn more about themselves, is how people mirror them. So we are so separated right now that I feel like my consciousness duty is to bring us back together so that we can grow and mirror each other. And that's where we are now.
I know. And that's what I love. I love about your podcast because I don't know how I found it, but Calm You're Crazy. I'm like, what?
It's very
Yeah, this
sarcastic.
is it's got this girl, she's sitting with all these things flying in the air and it was just I know I work on resonance and frequency. I ran across you in my algorithm. Love your podcast, and I'm listening to it on a regular basis and following your work and doing mine. I started my channel in 2023 when I was ready to share my message. And I was still a baby too. I was still learning, and so I was doing my best. And I think that part of the process of this growing up and expanding into our soul, from our inner child to our soul, of being able to live our lives with our essence, from our essence of our heart and our joy and our love, just all the yummy stuff that comes with life. But then in order to reach that place, I think we need to find all the goop and the traumas and release all of that so that the light shines through. And I think that you are definitely an epitome of someone who has been through a lot, and you don't lead with your victimhood. I mean, I think people get a little taste of your story, but I feel like you are just another sister out there promoting empowerment for women, and you built a community. How's that going?
It's going really well. I am noticing energetic capacity coincides with how much expansion there is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm learning, this is new for me. And one thing that I am noticing is that everybody is nuanced and everybody has specific needs. And it makes me feel good when there's an energy exchange. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have been working one-on-one with the members of my community, and I'm finding that my energetic capacity is about 30. So that's me working one-on-one with about 30 women at a time,
Yeah.
right? So that's my community now, but I want it to be accessible to a lot more people and start teaching from a broader kind of expansion point. And then I also really feel like the future is an energy exchange. And so we need to
Mm-hmm.
find balance right now between monetary and energy. And that means that I'm taking a really big leap of faith because as a marketer, I've been trained, right, to like
Mm-hmm.
rely on all these metrics and psychological things. And I'm doing away with all of that. And I'm setting all my things at a pay what you can
Yeah.
because I feel like to every man according to his need. And the
Mm-hmm.
ones who can afford it will support the ones who can't.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the beginning. And I feel like a lot of people are doing it, but offering this and saying, come as you are, whatever you can give back will come. So
Mm-hmm.
take what you need now because like this is going to help you grow. And then once you're in a position, you're going to be able to give back. And that's what the purpose of this is.
Yeah.
And so opening myself up to that energy for balance to come in creates that balance within myself and helps me overcome my triggers around scarcity and abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And then once my nervous system acclimates to that, my mirror, which is reality, reflects back the balance to me.
Yeah.
And that's the external world, right? So my
Mm-hmm.
balance comes into balance. Reality is going to reflect that to me in balance. So
Yeah.
I have to
It's
take the action
beautiful.
though.
Yeah, I know it's action. And, I'm learning this game too. I've started when I bought my egg, I bought it back in June. I think I put my down payment on it. In July, I had my space setting up. And then in August, I jumped in last year. And so my
Can we
doors have
talk
been,
about this egg now? Is it
yeah, I want to
time?
talk about the egg.
Is
And
it time? Is it time? I want, like,
yes,
the whole reason I came on here was for this egg. Okay. I need to know what this egg is, how it works.
my harmonic egg, which is number 218 in the world. And I don't think that many are operating. There's
There's
probably
only
about,
my hair. It's crazy.
yeah, there's probably about 150 that are operating. And there's actually two in Reno. And the second one came about a month after I did. And I had a little moment of, but then I've always imagined working with people all over the world. And I've known that I work with quantum tech so that I could, right? And so we sent you the house clearings. And I wanted to send you the house clearings so that you could experience it. And if there was any sort of feeling that came up for you, I've been sending these house clearings all over the United States. And it's amazing when people start to feel the vibration in their house raise. They get the itch to clean, they get the itch to purge. Things feel lighter, airier, plants do better, wildlife starts showing up on the property, kids start getting along. I don't know. What was your experience?
Well, now that you're mentioning that, my plants need to be watered constantly. And I did notice before that they went like an entire week and I didn't have to water them, which is highly unusual. It's really hot. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been hotter. And then I did have a big energy come over me of purging. I see now you were responsible for that. Thank you.
Well, and we had permission. And so I don't know if I have your chart available. I thought I wrote it down, but I don't seem to have it. So I use this
That's
Bovis.
very interesting because I did. I literally went through and threw away a ton of stuff because we are getting ready to move. And I was like, we need to get rid of some of the stuff now. I mean,
Yeah.
it did suddenly come over me.
Yeah, and I had heard you talking on a podcast about, you were having a conversation and you're like, I just totally opened up really wide. And then you told me about another experience where you had someone offer to pay for your purchase at the office store. And I was like, this girl is so magnetic because when you've done so much of the shadow work,
Yes.
and then you have all this light pouring into your body because light doesn't know time or space. It's so fast that the results can be immediate. And so, yeah.
That was an experience. It changes really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had experiences with that before, but this one was like in awareness of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a big purchase that I was making. It wasn't like, I was just buying little groceries or whatever. I was buying a lot of computer equipment, so hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And so, but this person didn't care. He just wanted to offer to buy it for me.
So,
And I was not okay with that, but I was like, wow, like
yeah.
energy is big. Now,
Right. And
my
then the
community
next,
member was like, you should have let him pay. And I was like, no, because that's a whole different animal, right? Allowing the energy in is one trigger wound that I get over, right? But then
yeah.
then there's the obligation piece. You automatically attach that meaning in that story if you let them pay for it. I'm like, that's a whole different animal. I am not prepared today, baby Jesus. No way.
Right. No, and I get that. That receivership is something that I've been having to work on throughout my healing process and receiving from others because I've been such a over giver that I had to find the balance in the receiving too.
Yeah.
And I think as we travel along and we start to learn how to balance out our masculine and our feminine and bring those two, which are brain hemispheres, once we start doing the energetic work, it's like our brain starts operating on both sides. We start growing those neurotransmitters. We start using our third eye. We start using our sixth senses. it gets really fun. Life gets really
Really
fun.
fun.
So,
Whenever you start seeing it as a game, yeah, it gets really fun.
and I definitely see it like a game because every day for me is different. And my time is all mixed up right now. I actually got dressed and ready yesterday morning for my 2 podcast interviews that I have today. And I texted my first guest and she said, "Kelly, that's tomorrow." I'm like, "Well, time is strange because I don't really have anywhere that I have to be every day. I have my sessions that I do, my in-person sessions, but then I also have work that I do remotely that isn't on a time agenda, if you will. It's just kind of like I'll go into the office and run all my sessions and give my clients, just a little heads up. Hey, your session's about to start and here we go. And here's what you were and here's your songs and your colors. And they receive it just like a radio in the car. And so they can be at the grocery store receiving it or they can be at home. It's so cool because we're all like little devices.
Right. Am I allowed to ask questions?
Yeah,
So you go into the egg and
I
do
don't.
energy work.
So I personally I consider myself the DJ. So
Okay.
I will go in, and this isn't I didn't do this for you, but say for instance, I have a client who wants to know why their knee hurts. So we'll go in and we'll look for trapped emotions around the knee pain.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll find, maybe guilt or shame or fear or something. I mean, it's usually a laundry list of stuff. And then we'll put all that down. We'll put the intention clearly into the egg. And just like a DJ would load up a song into a playlist, I send it out. And it goes through the ether on an energetic wave. And so what the scalar waves, how I envision the scalar waves is more like a blanket of waves, like you'd see at the bottom of the swimming pool,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like a blanket. It goes through everything. And it's not a beam, and it's not going to get stopped through a wall or whatever. It just goes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you light a match and you blow it out, and that smoke illuminates the air,
And
you
how
can
does the
kind of,
yeah, how does the egg what does the egg have to do with it? Is it just helps you like focus your energy, or how does the egg itself work?
I would call it coherence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a biofield that has interruptions, interference, debris, trapped emotions, energetic blocks, tangles, snarls. I see people who look like a ball of Christmas lights. Their nervous system looks like a ball of Christmas lights. And then what I want to do is I'm going to untangle, those Christmas lights out. And it's helping people turn on their DNA, raise their frequency. So when we started, I think you were vibrating around 15, 14 or 15
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And lately, the last time I checked you, you were up over off the charts, like 23,000 in your life force, chi, prana, life force
Mm-hmm.
frequency. Well, that's your gas tank. It doesn't go back down. I mean, it can, but if you're someone who does your own work and you're meditating and you're tuning your own chakras, it's just out there making your plasma bubble coherent,
Mm-hmm.
if you will,
Gotcha.
taking the ripples. And the way my guides showed it to me with my biofield is they said, okay, if you're out kayaking on a lake that is glassy and calm, you're going to paddle and you're going to glide. You're going to paddle, you're going to glide. And my main guide said, listen, when you're agitated and you're sending out all this fear and all this stress and all this anxiety, you're putting ripples in your field. And it's like we're kayaking on the lake on a windy day, trying to get through the rapids, trying to get your manifestations to you, but we can't get through all those rapids. We can't get through all of those waves easily. Keep your bubble calm and pure so that they can just float your desires to you.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel my anxiety coming out of me and putting ripples into my
for sure.
bubble.
Yeah, it's energetic, for sure.
Yeah. And so I just like to visualize my smooth kayaking days and keeping my energetic field calm. And Dana Kipple talks about it in her plasma book, A New Force, how we're all just little bubbles of plasma walking around. And when it's coherent, we're magnetic. I've been sticking quarters to my forehead lately, and I don't take medications. I don't have heavy metals. I'm just magnetic.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm sure you, if you haven't tried it yet,
I've never
probably
put a quarter up there, but now I'm like, maybe I need to put a quarter up there.
be a fun little test. But yeah, I go in and I do specific removal of things, and so down the road when you're ready, I would love to, show you that. I work with codes, I work with emotion code, and it's unique to me. I don't know that there's other places practicing it the same way I do because I made it all up myself. Like I was doing this in my living room before I had my egg, and then I just kind of was told I needed to go bigger outside of my home, and
people that resonate with you are going to come find you, and
right,
need that for whatever it is that they're dealing with on their journey, and it's going to resonate so that they can feel better. It's like we need that connection and that permission slips with each other so that we can mirror each other.
Yeah, and you're a light, you're a warrior, you're a queen. You're strong.
Takes one to know one.
Well, I do feel every time your videos show up, I'm like, I feel honored because, it's resonance. And like I said, you're a big sister for me. Even I might be older than you, but I feel like you're a big sister in.
Well, thank you.
Where you're at with your process. And I remember I was like, well, this money thing is really making me crazy. And you have a money manifestation or something for people, I think, on your website for free.
Yeah, it's that just kind of like a little download of like a PDF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't able to download. I wasn't able to access it when I tried, but
I'll have to see.
I think it was a me thing. I don't think it was a you thing. I think it was a me thing.
Then that's not the way you're supposed to manifest money.
Well, that's true. And so I'm totally surrendered at this point. Divine surrender. And doing my service to humanity and collaborating and cooperating with my fellow soul tribe. So thank you.
Whenever we come together, it's a force multiplier. Every single time I meet with one of my community members or meet with somebody like this, the amount of offers that come into my email is like a reflection. I mean, I'm getting so many offers that I'm really like starting to have to feel like, where do I want my energy to go? And what is it that I want to do with my time, So hopefully, that this will multiply for all of us and for you. I noticed that whenever I've done research about people who are successful, the people who do it for the energy, who do it because it's what they believe in, no matter what, that's when the money follows. If you're doing it for the money, then the energy is focused in a wrong way, and so it's going to be longer.
Right. And I definitely feel called to this work. I'm a life path 6 with a master number 33. So I've known for a long time that I was meant to be in this realm of assisting people. And I've always been the soft place for people to land. But I always had the hard jobs, the physical jobs. And so now that I'm in my midlife era, I want to use my brain. I love working with my mind and my gifts to help other people get on their highest timeline. So thank you for taking time out of your day to meet with me. Do you have any exciting irons in the fire right now?
One thing I really wanted to do was human interest stories.
Okay.
And one thing that I have found in meeting with my community members is that my story is not unique.
Mm.
There are so many of us that have overcome so much. And we tend to idolize people like Jay Shetty, I went and was a monk for forever or whatever. And if you read energy, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell when somebody's duplicitous in some sort of fashion. I'm not saying he's duplicitous all the way, but there's something off there. You know what I mean? And then stories have come out that he never was a monk, which if you know energy, you probably felt that way before. I know I did. But those types of people, it's very obvious that they're doing it so that they can make money.
Yeah, I can tell when people
Mm-hmm.
I can tell when people are authentic. And I go through my
You can probably feel my anger. I feel like Christ, like whenever he was throwing over, all the doves and everything. And I feel like there is everything you need is inside you. As
mm-hmm,
the observer, you create your reality. So when I see people peddling feel good only for divinity, it makes me really angry because you have to feel your entire breadth of emotions, just like you experience the entire visual spectrum of the color wheel, right?
right.
It's part of being human. So I want people to hear other people's challenges and how they overcame them instead of
Mm-hmm,
for something that's fluffy and that is
right.
not real.
And I do agree with you that there's a place for that, but I honestly, with me, my experience, I've told my story a little bit, but I don't stay there because I don't want to repeat those words out of my mouth on a regular basis because your word is your wand.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do feel like there are people who bypass
Mm-hmm.
and go straight to the creation and not do the shadow work. But then there's those who do the shadow work. They make the creation through their soul, through their essence of that healed version of them, right? And you built your business on the healed version of the woman that you became over all of your challenges
Right.
because it's embodiment. It's this new wave of conscious creators have embodied it through trial and error, through experimentation, through
Mm-hmm.
the lived experience of doing the thing.
Right.
And there's probably not anybody in this collective that hasn't scraped their knees multiple times. And not everybody's story is going to be as hard, but I'm sure that we're all in some capacity a warrior spirit.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? And that's another thing that I want to shed light on too. That's why this is exciting for me because it's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So I may have had one side of the spectrum that's really dark, right? But that means that I've had to work the hardest. And that means if you have anything that's easier than that, you won't have to work as hard, right?
Yeah.
And so the people that are willing to come on the show and talk about their stuff, some of it's really hard, but we always start from there and where they are now, which it's amazing how far
Yep.
people have come. It's amazing. And I feel like that is going to be a big game changer. I said, I'm tired of talking about myself. I want to talk about somebody else now.
That's what I ran into that same thing. I was also just tired of talking to myself. I felt like I was talking to myself, but I love your rambles, so please keep those. And
Well, I mean, I like I feel like if I'm sharing or if I'm doing something constructive that has value, then I want to share. But if not, then I'm like, I want
It's
to
the
do
middle
something.
of the night downloads. I mean, I'm the same way when I was doing my podcast and it was just audio. I didn't have to take a shower. I didn't have to put my makeup on. I didn't have to get dressed. And then Spirit's like, if you want to, you know, get out there, you need to start making some YouTube videos. And I was like, but also, that was my whole game plan to begin with. I just had this fear of being seen and I wanted to stay in my bathrobe.
Obviously, that
Serious.
didn't stop me because there are videos with me in my bathrobe and my hair and a towel. I'm
That's
serious.
okay.
Like, if
I
I felt it and I was like terrified, I'd do it.
Right. I've done that too with my short format content, but I haven't recorded a whole podcast in my bathrobe.
I would
And
probably not.
so I'm going to wrap this up. We're running a little over an hour now. So
Okay.
I want to thank you for your time. It
Thank
was
you for
such a
having me.
pleasure getting to know you, Keanna. And I will put your links in the description where people can reach you. And then they can find you on Instagram and TikTok at Keanna Lambert.
Yes.
Any other platforms? You've got YouTube?
I've got the main ones: YouTube, Instagram.
Okay, I'm sure they can find all your links.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. We'll be in touch.
Okay, thank
Stay
you.
on
I
the
had a
line.
really good
I'm gonna
time.
thank you for being here, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.
Okay, thank you again.
And in case you missed it during the show, just remember you can reach me at www.staytunedsoultherapy.com. You can find all my goodies and services there or in my link tree. Thank you for being here. Your subscriptions, your follows, your shares, they all mean the world to me as I proceed on this path, helping with the Great Awakening and reminding you what an amazing, powerful soul you truly are.